spiritual growth and physical growth and emotional growth. And if we don't acknowledge those and deal with that, then we are going to become a little self-righteous crowd, only trying to minister to people as spiritual, or people we hope will become as spiritual as we are. And that's just not the way it is. It's never that way. That's idealistic. It'd be nice, but it's not going to happen. You know, you realize that people are not even going to be perfect in the millennium. Capital punishment is going to be in the millennium to execute people immediately. The millennium is not heaven. And so when you have the devil bound for 1,000 years, no more war, Jesus Christ is ruling and reigning, you still have anarchy and rebellion going on, and the only thing that keeps it down is a rod of iron. So as a church grows, and it should, if it's doing the work of God, a church is going to have to deal with the fact that there are people at different levels within the church. And folks that are, you know, some folks, if they just quit chewing gum, that's a major step in their spiritual life. You know, I mean, that's not nothing for you. You've already quit. But you see, some people, that's just a big step for them. Or some people just, you know, they burn up their records or CDs they shouldn't be listening to. Do you realize that's a major step for some people? And for some people, just coming to church is a major step. Just getting here Sunday morning. I mean, you figure if they haven't been coming in 15 or 20 years, I guess starting in one service is a pretty big step, wouldn't you? You know. So, and then you get folks to come on Sunday night, and man, that's a major thing. And then Thursday night, you know, it's, you know, folks, about time for the rapture. But you have to understand that people are all different levels. And we have to understand that and try to minister to people where they are, and then bring them to where we're trying to bring them. So in our Sunday morning services, we are, you know, there's a lot of criticism going around America today. It's not because of what's going on, it's just because of, you know, who's making it popular. And, you know, Rick Warren is down there in California, has built a large church. I don't agree with Rick Warren on some things, obviously. I don't agree with Dr. Ruckman on some things, and I do things that I don't think he'd do backflips over. You understand? That isn't the issue at all. And, you know, it's the same with Jack Hyles. I had Jack Hyles to preach in this pulpit many times. I guarantee you he didn't agree with everything I did. I didn't agree with everything he did, but that isn't the point. What if I sit down at, if I go down here to the Old Country Buffet and I tell folks, and until you take spinach off of the menu, I'm not coming back. It's because I hate spinach. You know, I mean, you know, first of all, if you're mature, you wouldn't do that, and secondly, they're not taking it off. You know, and so what is going? In fact, I sent you an article the other day about the Friendly Church. I don't know if you got a chance to read it, because I know you've had a lot of emails and you've been reading and writing emails and so on. But maybe you got a chance to see that on the Friendly Church, criticizing a church for being friendly. Churches are not supposed to be friendly; they're supposed to be separated. You say, well, that's you know, I mean, I've got a word for that, but I can't say it. You know, and you know, and so I guess the idea is, if you're separated, you can't be friendly. You know, you're supposed to have a long face like some guys in the Bible. So what I want to talk about this evening, and you teenagers especially, I want you to pay attention, because this will help you. This will help you. It'll help our church, help the cause of Christ. And so I want to talk about how to make our church visitor friendly. Now, you're going to get criticism over that statement. You know, you're not supposed to be seeker friendly. That's a term that people don't like, and there are folks that come to church, and if you try to make your church friendly so people will come, you're compromising. Now, that's the most idiotic statement I ever heard in my life. Why don't we be rude and maybe spiritual folks will come? Now, it's idiocy, but you see. And so a church ought to be friendly, and it ought to be friendly in order to attract people. It ought to be friendly anyway. You know, I don't mean that it ought to be hypocrisy. I don't mean that at all. But this idea that if you are friendly and do things to try to attract and reach and attract lost people, that it's unscriptural, you're nuts if you think that's wrong. You know, that's in the Greek, it means nuts. That's what you are. So we're going to talk about that tonight. Now, we'll spend a little time. You've got some notes. In Hebrews chapter 13, verse 1, it says, "Be not forgetful to entertain strangers." How are you supposed to entertain them? With being rude? How are you supposed to entertain them? You know, I guess turn the air conditioning so high that they freeze, or the heat so high they're hot, you know, to see if they stick. That's one preacher's method. He tries to run you off. I was reading a deal the other day. I won't tell you who said it. It was a famous preacher. And it was about a fellow who was out soul winning. And he presented the gospel to a guy. After he presented the gospel to him, he said, "Now, can you think of any reason why you should reject Jesus Christ?" Now, listen carefully. And the guy said, "No." And he said, "Okay, you go take some time and figure out why you should." Now, you got to be a moron to think like that. In other words, until you can get to the point to where you can't think of any reason why you should accept Jesus Christ, then you're not ready to get saved. That's nuts. That's like a lifeguard telling a man drowning. You know? Can you think of any reason why you're never going to swim again? And the guy's drowning. And he said, "No, I can't." "Well, okay, I'll be back when you think of some reasons why you shouldn't go swimming anymore." You know? And I don't know what it is. I don't know. Either I'm awfully stupid. I just don't get it. Is that okay? All right, I don't get it. I don't get the idea of trying to create scenarios so people will not come to church. I don't get it. I don't get waiting till people are spiritual enough to come. The church is not primarily just to get spiritual people to come. Everybody ought to come. I want sinners to come to Open Door Baptist Church. You know, I think we got a house full tonight. See? But I want sinners to come to church. I don't want you to go out sinning. That's not the point. But you do it anyway, whether anybody wants you to or not. But we want sinners to come to Open Door Baptist Church. I want everybody who wants to come to come. See? That doesn't mean everybody's going to like us. That's not the point. We're not going to stop telling people the King James Bible is the inspired, preserved Word of God to get people to come. We're not going to question the blood atonement, the deity of Christ, the second coming. None of that to get people to come. But these things are not doctrinal matters we're talking about. See? And so in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 24, it says, "A man that hath friends must show himself friendly." Now, did you know Jesus Christ was a friend of sinners? I wonder if he became their friend by being rude to them. The only people that Jesus Christ was curt with were the religious hypocrites. That's it. You check it out. That's the only people that Jesus Christ was rude. I wouldn't use the word rude. He was abrasive with them. And he called their hand. But they were the religious leaders of his country. And they were taking people straight to hell. But when it came to Zacchaeus and the woman at the well, the woman taken in adultery, and poor people and sick people, he invited them to come. And I want everybody to feel welcome at this church. I'm literally colorblind, and when it comes to races and people's race, it doesn't mean a thing to me. I don't care. God loves you. And I love you, and I don't care who you are. I don't care. If you can stand me, I can stand you. See? I don't care. See? And you're not too big a sinner to be welcome at Open Door Baptist Church. See? And but Jesus Christ was a friend of sinners. And if we're going to have friends, and by the way, that's what people want and that's what people need. Friendliness should always lead to friendship. See? And really that's what people want. They want friends, but you can't make a friend if you don't start out being friendly. Because friendliness is what attracts us to other people. And that is what attracts people to you. Whether you're their friend or not, it may lead to that. But if you're unkind and rude and indifferent and you don't care about people, you're never going to become their friend. They're never going to become yours because they can't get past this lack of friendliness. See? And that's why everybody at Open Door Baptist Church, everybody here tonight, listen carefully, everybody here tonight ought to plan to shake hands with everybody on Sunday morning. Or somebody. Not everybody, but everybody here tonight ought to plan to shake hands with somebody on Sunday morning. By the way, don't go up and ask people, are you a visitor? You know, it might be my wife. You know, I mean, you know what I mean? I don't mean she does that, but I mean that you may be asking her. So don't ask people if they're visitors. Oh, no, I've been coming here 20 years. Where you been? See? Don't ask people if they're visitors. Just ask them their name and get acquainted with them. Just assume everybody's a visitor. Just assume everybody's a guest. Right? Every Sunday. And treat everybody as a special guest on Sunday morning, even our regular people. All right? So that's what we need to do. Now, some folks think, well, if you can just get by, that's okay. And by the way, do you know that many times the fellows who are the smartest and have the highest IQ have the greatest lack of character because they don't have to try as hard. They go to school, it's a breeze. They don't study, they just get by. They can do it. They've got it. And you take guys like Jason Murphy and myself, man, I tell you what, we have to scratch iron and cement to get anything, right? Jason, back me up. Okay. But you have to work at it. See, my son Randy is a pretty smart guy. He really is. I mean, he can digest a book. He's read. I've got a set of volumes of world history, this long. Each volume is about that thick. He's read every one of them. He's read Josephus. He's read all that stuff, and he remembers it. You know, I can read my book on Baptist Bride baloney and can't even remember the introduction on the thing. But there are guys that they can get it. They're smart. But sometimes your IQ is your undoing. And so 99% is not good enough. What is acceptable level of quality performance? Well, if 99% is the goal, then 12 babies will be given to the wrong parties each day in every major city. If 99% is good enough. If 99% is good enough, 200,000 drugs prescriptions will be filled incorrectly in the next 12 months. If 99% is good enough, 107 incorrect medical procedures will be performed by the end of the day today. If it's good enough, 22,000 checks will be deducted from the wrong bank account in the next 60 minutes. If 99% is good enough, there will be no telephones, electricity, television for the next 15 minutes each day, if that's good enough. Now, fact number one is that Open Door Baptist Church, or any church, cannot grow without visitors. It cannot grow without visitors. And number two, your church cannot grow if visitors don't come back. Now, here's what, at Open Door Baptist Church, listen carefully, here's what we need to find out and do. We need to give everybody a reason to come back. I don't know how you're going to do that. I don't know. If you were running a restaurant, how would you get people to come back? If you had an ice cream stand, how would you get people to come back? If you were selling lemonade on the corner, how would you get people to come back? If you were selling a pencil or donuts on the corner, how would you get people to come back? What would you do to get people to come back? See? So we need to be thinking as church members, and by the way, I never thought about this too much, but I was with Brother Rick DeMichael some time ago, and I remember he said to me about a year or two ago, he said, we try to give everybody a reason to come back. Do we? Probably not. We probably don't consciously think about what do I need to do to ensure that people will come back. See? Now, I know how to ensure they don't come back. Do nothing. See? But what am I doing? What are you doing? What will you do to make sure that people want to come back? All right? So it cannot grow if visitors don't come back. Now the question is, what are you going to do every Sunday to make sure that your visitors return? Years and years ago, we had a fellow to preach here. He preached many times. He's from Ventura, California, and his name was George Golden. He was from Ventura. Many of you will remember George Golden. And I remember he told me that, and my wife, he said, my wife and I started something at our church that has been so successful. He said, every Sunday when visitors come, my wife and I invite one of the visiting families, and I guess the staff would invite others, but we invite one of the visiting families that Sunday to come back next Sunday and go to lunch with us, and we will pay for it. He said, we have had over 70% come back and people to join our church simply because my wife and I took them out to lunch and showed interest in them. 70%. You know what? If you had those odds in Vegas, you would do quite well. And by the way, a church will do well if we'll take people, and by the way, and we need to be taking new people out for coffee, and new people down to McDonald's, and new people down to the Dairy Queen, and new people down to the wherever we go, right? You know, I do the same thing. I got my son Rocky here. I love every Sunday I would love to go and have lunch with my son Rocky and my daughter-in-law. I wish they'd start buying. But, you know, I mean, I could go to lunch with them once a week, and that would meet my socialization with them during that week. And it would take up my time and their time. But you know what? We would never be able to get another family in this church by doing that. And so what we need to do is say, you know, I need to be thinking about not just the members of our church like this crowd here, because you're the core. Most of you are going to keep coming back because you're committed to this church and to the membership and to the Lord, and you're going to probably keep coming back. You've got friends here. But when folks come in on Sunday morning, this is a strange place to them. You've visited other churches. You remember how you felt? You know, you walk into a building, you don't know where anything is. Every face is strange. The order of the service is different. You don't know where the bathrooms are. You don't know where the nursery is. You don't know anything. And that's the way people feel when they come in. And so we need to be able to just immediately move in and reassure people and let them feel that they're part of this family. So the question is, and I want you to think about it, what are you going to do? You know, you say, well, I'd rather you to preach the Bible. I am preaching it, you just don't understand it. I'm preaching it right now. See? And so what are you going to do that will help visitors come back and return? You see, the church really is the only cooperative society in the world that exists for the benefit of its non-members. The church is to go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. That's lost creatures. And then, after you get them saved, you're to teach them to observe all things. But the church is to be a lighthouse in the community, just as a mission station on a foreign mission field. We do the same thing here as missionaries do there. You know, a puddle of water and a piece of real estate doesn't make the responsibility any different. It's the same thing. It just doesn't, not as romantic when you are at home, you know, and you know everybody, and you're in your own culture. But it's really no different. It's the same thing. Brother Joseph's trying to do the same thing in India we're trying to do here. And so I hope you understand that. The purpose of the church is to reach people. Now, we need to get ready for company. At our house, my wife is an immaculate housekeeper. I mean, she can't stand dirt. I can't stand dirt. She really gets mad. Tries to make me take my shoes off in my own house. You know, I used to be the man of the house, and I did what I wanted to, but as I get older, I'm getting weaker. And she's not. She's not. She's just getting, more determined. And she runs around with a dust cloth and a vacuum cleaner and always cleaning. She says, there's an excuse for being poor. There's no excuse for being dirty. I think I agree with that, don't you? Soap is cheap. And so when we're going to have company over, and I like to have company because we really get the house clean. She gets this stuff that you spray cars with, and what is that stuff? Armor All. And she'll spray the recliner, and I recline, and I just slide right out of it. It's like trying to sit on a slide. And she just cleans everything up. It's spick and span. In fact, the other day we had company, and she got out this stuff. It's called depression wear. I don't know why anybody would be proud to have stuff from the Depression period. But she's got all this depression wear. It's cute, I guess. I don't know, cute. I can't even believe I said that. But she got this depression wear that she's collecting, and it's really, it's nice stuff. And she had it all in our formal dining room, which nobody ever uses except about twice a year when we have company. And I like to have company because we get to use it. And it's pretty in there. And puts the candlesticks on a table and all that silverware. I'll tell you who it was. It was Pat Perry and her sister. What's her name? Yeah, Liz. And they came up and spent the day and they had a great time. But I'm so glad they could come because the house really got cleaned up. And we got to use nice things, depression wear, candles on the table, just nice stuff. Company was coming. Company was coming. And we need to realize that every Sunday morning, company is coming. And you know what company does when they come to your house? Not these folks, but you know what a lot of folks do when they come to your house? They have to go to the bathroom. And they're going to look around. Medicine cabinet? What they got in their medicine cabinet? Drawers? What they got in their drawer, You know what I mean? I don't do that. I know you wouldn't, but some folks do. Don't they? Okay? So then, you want to really make sure that things are nice and neat in the bathroom. Some folks come to your house and they bring babies. And they have babies in these little carriers they carry, and they're just infants, and they're going to be looking for a place to lay their baby down while they visit with you. Now, if Fido's sleeping on the bed, or your cat, or there's cat hairs all over the bed, I don't think they're going to want their baby laying on that bed. Do you? I mean, you stop and think, so you want to keep that bedroom clean. If you know somebody that's coming, they might be bringing an infant. And so these, there are things that, and you have to get things picked up so people don't trip around on them and everything. You're getting ready for company. And that's why at our church, your church, you should think every Sunday morning company's coming. Our bathrooms need to be spotless. 99% is not good enough. The nurseries need to be perfect. 99% is not good enough. See? They need to be. You say, we're never going to reach perfection. How do you know? How do you know? Work for it. Work for it. So we need to get ready. We need to get ready for company. Now, what is the difference really between a guest and a visitor? What is the difference between a guest and a visitor? You notice I've been trying to break myself of this term visitor because I agree with what I'm finding out on these matters. And the difference, of course, between a guest and a visitor is that the difference is between never missing another Sunday and never coming back. See? And it all is about value. We don't want, technically, we don't want visitors. We want guests. We want folks that will come and stay a while, right? But we need to make sure that we do our housekeeping. It is a fact that surveys reveal that people do not come to church because of the preacher. And by the way, preachers like to think that that's why people come. Now, that may be true. That may be true with some folks that are already saved and they like the way you teach the Bible and things like that. But lost people usually do not come because of the preacher's preaching style or ability. Some of the largest and best churches in America do not have the best preachers. Some of the smaller churches in America have some of the better preachers. Churches are not big because they're spiritual, or not spiritual because they're big. But neither are small churches spiritual because they're small. You understand what I'm saying? There's nothing to it either way. A church can be small and spiritual, it can be small and carnal, it can be large and spiritual, it can be large and carnal. People are people. You know, people in Oregon are not any different than people in Washington. And so it's all about value when we think about housekeeping. Now let's talk about some things, and maybe tonight we can think about some ideas and some things. I don't want you to just think about negative things in your mind and not do anything about it. Maybe you could take and flip a piece of paper over, or you could write down some things that come to your mind that ought to be done. It won't help us, it won't help this church, if you see something, or you know something, or you think of something, and you don't tell anybody. So, did you know that researchers say that church guests, listen carefully, they decide whether or not to return to the church they are visiting in the first 10 to 12 minutes. They make their mind up in the first 10 to 12 minutes. I had a fellow, I told Brother Murphy about this, I had a fellow in my office, two guys the other day, salesmen. They called me, they made an appointment, I sat down with them, and I listened to one guy start talking, and I'm telling you, within 5 minutes I made up my mind I wasn't going to do business with him. Just the way he handled himself and presented himself, I made up my mind. And I told you about it. I said, you know what, that guy, he need prayer. I hope he wasn't training the other guy. You know, I made up my mind. I wasn't going to do more. I wasn't going to do it. You know, I mean, if that's the way he tries to present his product, what's his product like? See, and so people make up their mind. I don't know if I ever told you the story, but some of you remember it. You remember a fellow used to come to church here, a big red-headed guy. What was his name? Brother Colby. Came from the Lutheran church. They were not members, but that's where they went when they earlier years. And they drove, somebody invited them to Open Door Baptist Church, and they drove into our parking lot. They used to come in that driveway, and we had folks stationed in the parking lot. We had greeters in the parking lot. Folks with umbrellas to help ladies when it was raining so that you didn't have to walk in the rain. And Colby said to his wife before they got up the steps, he said, this is where I'm going to go to church. See, made up his mind. How many times have you driven into a grocery store and you can't find a parking place, you just turn around and go somewhere else? How many times have you gone to a restaurant, you couldn't get anybody to wait on you, or a store, and you turn around and walk out? In fact, where was I the other day? I did that. I couldn't get anybody to wait on me. You know, same thing. I called somebody on the phone the other day. They said, "Can you hold, please?" I had my cell phone. I guess after about 10 minutes of listening to music on my cell phone, I said, forget it. I hung up. See? You know what? I'll tell you what. The owner wasn't on the other end of the phone. You know who was on the other end of the phone? Somebody that didn't care anything about a customer service. I can tell you that for sure. See? And so people make up their mind. You know, you remember Eagle Hardware when the Eagle Hardware was here? I liked Eagle Hardware. And I remember, I've told this story because I was impressed by it. I went to Eagle Hardware up here in Everett. I went in and I was looking for something, I don't know, some kind of electrical fixture. And a guy came by and he said, "Can I help you find something?" And I told him what I needed. He said, "Come with me, I'll show you where it's at." And we walked from one corner of that store to the other side, and we kept walking and walking and walking. He said, "It's just over here." And I said to him, I said, "You must own this store." He said, "No, I just work here. I want to make sure you get the right kind of service." Now, if he maintains that idea, he's not going to be a box boy forever. Right? I like one of our ladies sitting here tonight. We had somebody that needed to go to the Ed building. She said, "I'll take you over." Someone said, "I need to go to the, now where's the bathroom?" "I'll take you down there." You see, when somebody needs to know where something is, don't say, "It's down through this door out here, go down the stairs and out that door, and then turn left and go past the nurseries through that door, and then go all the way across the fellowship hall and through some double doors, and then turn right, and there's the ladies' bathroom." You could take them down there by the time you told them that, and you'd make 100% more impression on them. And teenagers, that works for you. You girls, if some teenage girls come and they need to, you tell them where it's at. You take them. Come, say, "I'll come and show you." See? "I'll show you." Say, not you guys, the girls. You do it, okay? Okay. But you know, you just do things like that, and it'll help people. Downstairs tonight, we were talking about these espresso machines. Kim was sitting at the table with me, and we were talking about where her daughter works over here. Brittany works at an espresso machine, or espresso, is that what you call it? This little booth, whatever, over here somewhere. And I was talking to the owner, the boss, trying to find out if Brittany's any good and if she works, and she never would tell me. But no, that wasn't why I was there. I was getting some good coffee. But it wasn't on Sunday, Brother Ron. It was a different day. And but anyway, I said to her, I said, "About how much does it cost to get started here?" Blah, blah, blah. And she told me that she found this place in the newspaper. They had it for sale. Told me what she paid for it. And she said they sold it because it was a poor location. And she said nothing could be further from the truth. She said, "We're very successful here." Do you know what? It doesn't make any difference if you've got a real good location. If you've got poor service, people are not coming back. People aren't coming back just because you're on a main street. People aren't going to come to your church because you've got your name on the sign out there. The preachers have to get over that. See? Convenience is important. That gets people in the door. Service keeps people coming back. Right? Now, I know for some folks, service doesn't. They don't care, you know. They just want some Bible doctrine, you see. But, so what happens in the first, 12 minutes? Well, your church property, first of all, must be clean. It must be clean and well maintained. Open Door Baptist Church ought to have the best grounds of anybody in Linwood. We ought to be better than the Mormons, right? Ought to be better than the Catholics, ought to be better than the city of Linwood. And they got some pretty good stuff down there. But it ought to be well maintained. That's what people expect nowadays. It ought to be well landscaped. These things are important to people. It ought to be inviting cosmetically. And that means somebody much smarter than myself needs to see that that happens. Because I wouldn't know. I thought cosmetically had something to do with operation or something. I don't know. It needs to have directional signs in the parking lot so people know where to go. No one should be wandering around in the parking lot wondering, where do I go here? You know, where do I take my first grader? Where do I take my fifth grader? Where do I take my infant? You see, those things ought to be made evident. All right. The parking lot is for guest parking. There ought to be adequate number of guest parking spaces. I think we have that if we could keep our church members from parking in them on Sunday morning. Now, I know you mean well, and please, don't, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you at all. But I do need to say this. Do you realize that when you park on Sunday morning in the guest parking, you are, I don't know what you're implying. I guess you're implying that you don't expect any guests to come. you know. I don't think it's that you don't care. I don't believe that. I just think you think, well, nobody's going to come, or maybe it's convenient. But, you know, the guest parking, you ought to leave it open for visitors to park. Amen? I'm going to start having McBride to write tickets. Because we need to up the offering anyway, Mike. So you got my permission. Anyway, so, you know, you need to have adequate number of guest parking. Easy to identify and locate. Now, here's what we're going to do. Brother Miller is going to be making a couple of booths. I guess I said it right. And we're going to have 2 workers in each one of them. And we're going to have one of them stationed right out here at the corner of this building. And we're going to have 2 workers in there, 2 sharp people who are alert. And we're going to have a visitors information center. And when people drive in as visitors, they can drive right up, and the worker will answer their questions, give them a visitor's packet, and give them directions where parking is, and have them to drive on around. We'll have another booth over here to meet them. We'll have umbrellas in both of those booths so people can have umbrellas. We'll have receptacles at the door so they can deposit those umbrellas. But we want to do everything we can to make visitors feel welcome at Open Door Baptist Church. Why not make it easy for people? See? Since people are making up their mind in the first 12 minutes, we ought to help them make up their mind. Do you know what? If you can help me help people to make up their mind, I think I like this church. I think I like that preacher. You know what? They will listen to me. But when they make up their mind, they don't like it. They're unhappy. They are not going to listen. Right? Okay. So let's do all we can to do everything we can. It's just like parents. If you gripe about to your kids about the Sunday school teacher, your kids will stop listening to their Sunday school teacher. They're going to cut them off. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have a complaint or a gripe or something, but don't do it in front of your kids. See? You know, go to the person you're upset about, or get along with your wife and gripe about it, but don't do it in front of your kids, okay? Okay, number whatever. You must, of course, these spaces must be the best parking spaces, and, you know, I think they are. They're about as close to the entrance as you can get. And, of course, we must have greeters. We have greeters. We're going to enlist more. But thank God for our greeters. By the way, every person, listen carefully, every person who visits here, Leisha Pine and her workers send out a visitor's letter Sunday afternoon, I mean before the visitors get home. They print a letter for every visitor who fills out a visitor's card. They do it right after church. And that letter is in the mail that Sunday afternoon. And in that letter is a response card with a return postage stamp on it. And on the back side of that card, the question is asked, what did you notice first at Open Door Baptist Church? What did you like best, and what did you like least? I think, without exception, everybody has said, the first thing I noticed were the friendly greeters. That's almost 100%. That's what people will say. That's what I noticed. You see. Usually the next thing, it'll be the music or the friendliness of our people. You know, never me or Murphy, but, you know, nevertheless, you know, greeters, thank God for you, because you have far more influence than you realize. Greeters should wear name tags so people know who you are and can identify you. I don't need to say you should be friendly. You're not a good greeter just because you stand in an assigned spot. We could get a wooden Indian to do that. And if you're Indian tonight, no offense. See? But I mean, you know, we could buy, you know, we could buy a wooden Indian to stand there. So we're not looking for somebody to just stand in a spot. We're looking for folks to be friendly and aggressive and shake hands and introduce yourself to them. See? Think about serving people. Should understand the value of this time that you have as a greeter. As I said, you should escort the guest to the Welcome Information Center, should introduce guests by name. Find out people's names if you can. I'm not talking about introducing from the pulpit. We're not going to do that. But when you talk to people, you should ask them name. Now, the next thing is called the value of a smile. The value of a smile. And when I finish this, I want to say something about a Safeway store that I visited some time ago. So hopefully I'll be able to get back to that. Holiday Inn interviewed 5,000 people to fill 500 positions that were needed to open a new facility. When the hotel managers interviewed those candidates, they excluded everybody who smiled fewer than 4 times during the course of the interview. This standard was applied to every available job and to every prospective employee. How many of our church members would qualify for a job at the Holiday Inn? Right? See, they were not just evaluating the questions. Is it right up there? They're not just evaluating your answers to the question. They're evaluating your behavior while they're questioning you. See? And you know, a smile is something that, you know, you could give everybody, and it doesn't cost too much. Now, conversation between 2 fishermen went something like this. I'm not even sure I can read this. It's, "Hiya, Mac. Hello, buddy. Been along? A couple hours. Catching any? Got a few." I don't get it. I don't know what the next one is. Kindarda. Oh, is that? Okay. Okay. Bass and carp, I guess is what he's saying. Okay. Any size them? A couple of pounds. Hitting hard? Sort of light. I got to go to bed. See you around. I don't know what that is. What is it? Oh, is that take it easy? Oh, yeah, you take it easy. Good luck. Do you know, there are people that talk just about like that. You know, they know what they mean, but nobody under God's heaven can understand them. You know, the Bible is so clear that the words need to be understood. If people don't understand you, the Bible says you're a barbarian to them and all kinds of nonsense. You know, they need to understand you. You see. So you have to be careful what you say. Now, let's talk about transitioning our guests. We're just about through here. But parking lot greeters should escort all guests from the parking lot to the Welcome Information Center or to their class or wherever they need to go. So now this time is extremely valuable and should be used to discover the interest and the needs which the church can meet. So that's called kind of getting acquainted. Now on the outside, we need to, I don't think that's right. I think that's, on the inside, welcome and greet all guests. All guests must be welcomed and receive information. Brother Murphy and I and David will be working on that information packet. What type of information should they have? There should be a church newsletter, information on upcoming events for all ages, information on all ministries, if you want to write something down there, information about discipleship classes, like 101 through 401, information on recreational opportunities, going golfing, taking somebody golfing with you or fishing with you or whatever, bowling, information on the staff and who can call, and a map. That's underway. Parking lot greeters then escort the guests to the Sunday school class, the nursery, the youth area, or to the worship center. There they must be introduced to the class greeters, teachers, or ushers. That's why it's important to get their name. Someone said a person's name is the sweetest sound on earth. When we talk about the nurses, let me stop right here for a minute. My wife and I were on vacation down in Arizona last February, and we were on our way down to I don't know where we're going, Boot Hill, somewhere down there. And we stopped at a little town and went into a Safeway store. And you couldn't help but see the friendliness of the workers. It didn't matter which aisle I went down. If a Safeway employee met me, they smiled at me and said, "Can I help you find anything?" Without fail. I mean, it was so obvious you knew that the management was doing a good job in training his staff. So, after a while, I said to one of the employees, "Is the manager around?" And the fellow said, "Yeah, I'll take you to him." And he took me over here just in an area, and the manager was there. And I said to him, I know you want to hear this, because managers want to hear this. I said, because whoever tells the manager what a good job he's doing, all you do to a manager is you complain. So I told him, I said, "You know what? I came in this store, and every aisle I went down, if I met one of your employees, they smiled at me and said, 'Can I help you find something?' And I want to commend you on the good job that you and your staff or your employees are doing." Why? They didn't need any lights in there. He just beamed, you know. See? You know what he said? "We really work at it. We really work at it." And so if we're going to do a better job for Jesus Christ and attract people, we need to work at it. All of us as a team. Everybody. Now, a survey, they asked different people, what is the most important thing to you in a church? And without fail, the women said the bathrooms and the nurseries. Not the music, not the preaching, the nurseries and the bathrooms. If bathrooms are dirty, company, you know what? It's like when you go to a restaurant, you know what? All you got to do is go into a restaurant, and if the bathrooms are filthy, the kitchen is filthy. It's the same management. So I guess before you sit down and take a menu, you should go to the bathroom, and if it's filthy, just say, "We're going somewhere else." You know. Now, that being true, the nurseries must be clean. They must be bright. They must be cheerful. And they must be secure. Now listen, have you ever been down to Children's Hospital? I have. Many times. And you get on that hospital and you see all kinds of animal paintings on the wall and all kinds of attractive colors and all kinds of things that will please and attract children, you see. Because they want to do these very things. We never get around to it. See? The world and their generation's much wiser than the church. See? You know, we just think we can shout amen, it'll happen. My Greek teacher, I didn't have to take Greek, but a fellow who taught Greek said to his guys, "If you think you're going to pass this class by yelling amen, you're sadly mistaken." Acknowledging guests during worship. How do we acknowledge our guests during the worship service? Can either make them feel welcome or embarrassed. I can't believe for years I had people to stand up and identify themselves and tell me your name, your social security number, and your blood type. You know, that's got to be terrifying. You know, in fact, I've had folks to say, you know, they tell me their business, they say, you know, don't ask me to stand. You know, and I've seen people do, you know, and you don't need to do that. Really, we get more response from visitors by using the response card than we ever got any other way. See? Because now they're not conspicuous. And when that's why on Sunday morning we need every member of this church to reach forward and get a card and fill it out when Brother Murphy says, "Would you reach forward and get a card?" I know you're tired of it. We've got the information in the computer anyway. We got your name and your number, and we know where you live. We got all that stuff. We want you to reach forward so that visitor sitting nearby is not the only one reaching forward and getting a card. Let me show you something. This will probably get me in trouble. Who's shy over here? Anybody shy? Are you shy? Are you shy? You're not shy enough, okay. Who's really, really shy? Katrina? Katrina, would you stand up a minute? Katrina, do you feel conspicuous right now? That everybody might be looking at you? Sure. Sweetheart, sit down. Please come back to church. Now, you say, what are you trying? You know, now a guy that does that, you know what he's trying to do? He's trying to be friendly. He means well. He really believes that's hospitable by having people to stand up and identify themselves. He means it. He means well. But he's not thinking about the embarrassment and the awkwardness that that person may be feeling. And so consequently, by using the response card, we can accomplish everything we're trying to accomplish without embarrassing that person. And you, sitting around them, can make them feel friendly and welcome without me having them to stand up and introduce themselves. Now, as shy as she is, if she went into a church as a visitor, I doubt that she'd ever stand up and identify herself, you know. She might, I don't know. I hope she, hope she comes back. So what we do is we want people not to be embarrassed. Try not to embarrass people. We embarrass ourselves enough. Now, how do we make guests feel valued? See, this is another thing that I hear, the negative thing. We're not supposed to make people feel valued. Well, we know how to do that. We know how to make you feel miserable and guilty. But how do you make guests feel valued? Well, you need to include and do not exclude. Listen carefully, act like every person is a first-time guest. You see. Act like every person is a first-time guest. Everyone who gives an announcement, sings, speaks, etc. must be introduced or introduce themselves. People need to be introduced. I was telling Brother Habman, that's why we're trying to introduce. You see, the attitude that we have is, hey, this is just Jeff. You all know Jeff. Where is Jeff? There's Jeff. Yeah. Everybody knows Jeff. Why introduce him? I tell you why. First of all, it shows the value that we place on him. But also, not everybody who's here Sunday morning knows Jeff. That's why we do it. And we want to continue to do it and do it in the right way. Everyone who gives an announcement or sings or speaks, etc., must be introduced or introduce themselves. Okay? We just assume that everybody knows us because, once again, we're just trying to minister to the saints. See? And when you acknowledge your guests, allow them some anonymity. That is, try not to embarrass them. Teach your people to value their guests, and then provide a reception for guests following the service. And boy, I'll tell you, last Sunday morning, you could hardly walk through the fellowship hall downstairs. And that is a good sign. More and more people are going down there and fellowshipping and drinking coffee and just getting around the table. We're going to have to buy more tables and setting them up. And my goal is to get a big widescreen plasma TV down there, so we can watch my sermon again while we sit down there. Well, you didn't think we were going to watch Worldly football or something, did you? Why, you're too spiritual. You're too spiritual for that. We're just going to watch me preach again. But anyway, so we thank God for, for Brother Ron and the folks that work down there, and Randy and those folks that work down there. I know it's a job, and probably sometimes it's thankless, but you don't realize the great service you're doing. People appreciate it. They love it. And then the ladies that work out at this table out here and pass out the CDs, and you guys that develop them, all of that is impressive to people. See? It's important. It's important. And so that's why, and I just like to say this, I want my wife and myself and Dave and his wife and Brother Murphy and his wife to start being downstairs after the services so we can meet families and intermingle with them, you see. I don't need to glad hand with you Sunday morning after church, right? we need to be meeting visitors and making them feel welcome and talking to them. I know you. I'm going to see you Thursday night. And you're not in a hurry anyway. We can stay here all night and talk. But on Sunday morning, I need our staff down there and our key leaders to talk to visitors and make them feel welcome. All right? Now, following up and following through, statistics, the follow-up. 85% of guests return if visited in 36 hours. 85% if they're visited within the 36 hours. So that is something that we need to be praying about and try to get a team together to make that happen. 60% of the guests return if visited in 72 hours. 15% return if visited in 7 days. If the pastor makes the first visit instead of a layperson, the percentage is cut in half. You'd think it'd be right the opposite if you're the pastor, but that isn't the case. Because, once again, people expect the preacher to do religious things. See? But when laymen do things like that, it carries a lot more weight. It really does. See? When you as a layman, and I don't even like that term, but nevertheless, when you do those things, it really has a greater effect on people. Now, the open door strategy, let me just go over it again. One is to get the community to visit. We want to get the community to visit Open Door Baptist Church. 80% of the people who come to church, listen carefully, come because a friend or a relative invites them. If we could just mobilize this crowd right here tonight, each week just trying to invite a friend or someone to church, you'd be amazed what would happen. Now, I know some of you are, because we have visitors every Sunday. And we usually have 5 to 6 or 7 visitors and return visitors every week. And it's because you are inviting folks and telling people. But 80% of the people come. Preach to get visitors to accept Jesus Christ. We do that on Sunday morning. We're going to continue to do that. That is our goal. That's our objective. Once people get saved, I want to enroll them in our membership class 101. That's our strategy. Once they get saved, I want to try. Now, last Sunday night, you saw 18 people baptized, 20 people join the church, and that's within a 3-month period. See? And we're not trying to railroad or ramrod anything. We're giving people... In fact, there's a family that got baptized and joined the church Sunday night. They came the next Sunday after we had our last 101 class. They said to me, met me right back here, they said, "We want to join the church." I said, "Okay. In 3 months, we'll be teaching our membership class." Now, the average pastor would have said, "Well, I might lose them in 3 months." You think after you baptize him, you won't lose them? You got to get over this idea that I've got to get people baptized right away or they won't stick. People don't stick because they got baptized. People stick because they have character and commitment and want to stay. And by the way, they did stay, and they went through 101, and they were baptized last Sunday night and joined the church. You see? Now, I'm kind of impressed that they would do that, but they did it. See? The key is not how many people you can get to join the church. The